Welcome to the Bladtcast. Very excited to welcome back. It's been a minute since we've had our friend Cayley from Once Over with Cayley, aka Lucy Tightbox. I always have to point out that some people do know you as that. I think the goal is that more people know you as Cayley than Lucy Tightbox. I feel like we can achieve that by 2027.
I think that I would prefer to keep being Lucy Tightbox as much as possible. I love her. She's
All right.
great.
She is pretty great. And it's true. I met Lucy Tightbox long before I met Cayley
Yeah,
because I met you at an Isotope show.
you sure did.
And they're obviously everyone in Western New York's favorite surf punk band, but the band is okay. But what people always talk about is the go-go dancers.
Um, I also want to just make a very important point here. You said in Western New York. I think that you meant all across the world.
Yeah,
We're
I,
everybody's
I meant
favorite. Yeah,
based in Western New York. That's
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
my mistake.
All
It's
right,
more I
good, good.
wanted people to know where they tend to see them. So
It's true. And we have all new go-go dancers. So I, Lucy Tightbox, get to be a go-go dancer. Now we have Janet Jacksoff, we have Tara Dickoff, and we have Honey Von Mantrap. So it's been a very exciting season for us.
I would love to see the list of names for the go-go dancers that haven't been used. The ones with the lines through them, like nah.
When I
Just,
first started, Carl and Chris and Croge gave me a big long list of names that I probably have somewhere still.
yeah. It's like I don't know if it works if I'm known as Muddy Cunt Flaps, but thanks for the suggestion. In any case, we will be dealing with much more clever names than that as we talk about someone that you and I can agree upon is a favorite filmmaker of ours. I want to talk about Wes Anderson. I want to start off talking about his latest film, The Phonecian Scheme. That's why this is the Wes Anderson scheme. Interestingly, left in the comments earlier is the great Hack Ride. Said, we all know Wes Anderson is just a Junit and Caro ripoff. And I don't know if I want to agree with that. Amelie walked so Wes Anderson could fly. I mean, Wes Anderson's been at it for like more than like almost 30 years now. When did Bottle Rocket come out?
So Bottle Rocket came out in like 96, and then I
Yeah,
think Rushmore
96.
was like 98.
Yeah.
But what year did Delicatessen? I think more so than Amelie. I think Delicatessen is a good and interesting point for that argument. I do feel
Yeah.
very like Delicatessen and Wes Anderson's films feel very similar to me.
I agree. And Delicatessen was 91. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And Bottle Rocket definitely 96. And what I remember about Bottle Rocket, fun fact, Bottle Rocket is the one Wes Anderson movie that I haven't seen in the theater because I didn't know about it. And I guess I probably could have seen it in the theater, one of those sort of revival showings at like the New Beverly here in LA or something like that. But I watched it on, get this, VHS, and I enjoyed it.
Whoa.
Yeah, I rented it from the local video shop, not Blockbuster. But everything since then I've seen in the theater, and I think that it's a bit of a mixed bag. That it's not like you can have like a trend line of his movies have gotten less anything. It's sometimes like, oh wow, that one was great. Other times I'm like, that was a Wes Anderson movie, so in general I liked it, but it wasn't one of my favorites. So do
He
you go
has
ahead?
he has become more and more of a caricature of himself. So he
Correct.
has become so extremely recognizable in his style, in his themes, in his telling of stories that a lot of the time, especially with his more recent movies, which I have missed a few of, so we will get into that, I'm sure.
Okay,
But
sure.
in his more recent movies, I feel like it's just like, okay, so that's Wes Anderson. Yep, I got it. I know what's going to happen now.
Well, let's talk about the latest one and then we'll sort of expand out. So I have some thoughts on the Phoenician scheme, but you're the guest, you're the lady. I would like to give you a chance to go first.
Yes, I just went and saw this obviously because it just came out,
Yeah.
and I was very excited. So I guess I'll reveal right now. I haven't seen his two most recent movies, so I haven't seen French Dispatch and
Asteroid City.
Asteroid City. So I
Well,
have not seen
and
those.
I mentioned this to you. Fun fact, our buddy Cardiff loves fun facts. I saw Asteroid City 2 years ago when I was in Rochester for the event we're talking about, Isotopioke. I went to a theater there and saw it, and I enjoyed it. And I should have invited you, but I didn't really know
I
you
know.
yet. So
No, and I don't know that I would have said yes. I had kind of gotten to a place with Wes Anderson where I was like, yes, his movies are beautiful, and yes, I love them, but it kind of feels like a trudge to continue revisiting the things that he likes to visit. And I love dealing with the complicated family dynamics, which Phoenician Scheme absolutely deals with.
yes.
But I had kind of, I don't want to say I was like over him. I was just like, I like these other movies that he did, so let me just rewatch those instead of seeing the new stuff because I know it's just going to be Wes Anderson doing Wes Anderson. So seeing the Phoenician Scheme was really exciting for me because it had been a while since I had seen a new movie of his, and I will say it was Wes Anderson doing Wes Anderson.
Yep.
It felt like a love letter to parenthood. I believe that he has a approximately 10-year-old daughter, and so I would be very curious what she will think about this movie because it certainly does not feature the best ever father in it.
Yeah.
But it was hard for me to follow, and I feel like I still don't really know what happened. It was almost a overly complicated plot to the point that I got bored.
Well, yeah. Okay. So I'll take the almost out in this sense. It was overly complicated. I didn't
Yeah.
get bored, but it was a few times that if I had been watching this at the comfort of my own home, I might have paused it. Just walked around the block a couple of times. And by the way, his daughter's 9, so you're spot on that
Yeah.
that is definitely a big part of it. And I would say that to me, unequivocally, the best thing about it was, and I had to look up this actress's name, Mia Thrappleton as Liesel. She was great. And I think that we feel like we know the character right away when if we first meet her, but we really get to know her a little bit more. And I'm looking up the other stuff she's done. I've never seen her in
She
anything
she
before
hasn't done.
this.
Do you know who she is? She's Kate Winslet's daughter.
Oh,
I
okay.
just learned that, and I was like, oh, I never ever in a million years would have figured that out. Um, I thought that she was truly wonderful. She was certainly an outstanding portion of this film. She gave a lightness to a very monotone character. And I
Yes.
thought that that was extremely interesting and something that Wes Anderson does do very well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I just with my wife last night just saw a movie with Dakota Johnson in it. And if there is anyone made to play monotone characters but not add anything to it, it's Dakota Johnson. It's like, do you want a performance that's going to be exactly like it is on the page, with no flourishes? She's your gal. I did once describe Dakota Johnson as like looking up at the screen and watching wet laundry. And I stand by it, even after seeing The Materialists last night. But that does not enter into this conversation. But I think it's the two ends of the spectrum for
Yeah.
actresses.
Yeah. And
And
it's and actresses who have come from very famous parents.
that's a great point. You know what? Speaking of Cardiff, I'll give you a bell for that. So
Yes.
I don't think he's watching, but he'll appreciate it. So yeah, I thought she was great. So Benicio del Toro is an exhausting character, and so many of his movies have this overly complicated. And talking about Wes Anderson's movies, not Benicio del Toro's films. And I think he gave the performance that he was called to give. He was reading just pages and pages and mouthfuls of dialogue. And by reading, I mean reading them to learn them. So I don't have a criticism on that, but it's just like these complicated father characters. I think he did it so perfectly in Royal Tenenbaums,
Yes.
and
And so why not
nothing.
just watch Royal Tenenbaums?
And that's kind of the point on this one. So this is like, if you really like Wes Anderson, go see this movie. You'll enjoy it on some level, and you'll be like, "Oh, I'm glad I saw the new one." But if you're like the way you're talking, kind of, oh, I was sort of done with him up at this point, then the thing to do would be like, hey, just watch Royal Tenenbaums. I think you'll be a
I
lot happier.
it's, an interesting parallel that I hadn't even thought about. Again, with Anderson's repeated theme of the familial dynamic, he also really likes talking about the perils of wealth, and so we
Mm.
get that also in Royal Tenenbaums. So really, I will say that Phoenician Scheme is stunningly beautiful.
Yes,
This
I
is a
agree.
movie where you could stop any frame of the movie and you could make it into a poster on your wall, and it would be gorgeous and you would be very, very excited about it. On the other hand, if it's all beauty and no substance, what do I care, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that, I think you just nailed the argument for actually seeing this film in the theater is
Yeah.
because it is actually so beautiful to look at. And I would say that that's the one thing that's consistent with his work is that it does kind of always look great, even when you're not quite sure about what's actually happening in the movie being the most entertaining thing you could get. And for our visual audience, I'm going to put the trailer on in the background so that you'll kind of get to see some of this. And Hackride actually now live with us says, "Don't you dare talk about Terrence Malick films like that." Thank you. He does agree with the previous comments, so we appreciate that to Hackride. But I mean, just everything we're looking at now, it's like there's so much detail and just the shot compositions, the fact that the bathtub's in the far left and it's just so much floor of the bathroom and these long tables. This is all very Wes Anderson, but it's always interesting to look at. So it's almost like what's happening on screen is going to prevent you from getting bored at any point, Cayley.
Yeah, I almost felt so wrapped up in the beauty of things that I would start to forget about the dialogue because the dialogue would be boring and monotone, which
Fair.
I believe was intentional. I
Yeah.
will say though, and I'm wondering if you felt like this as well. I felt like he really leveled up the beauty in this film. And again, I haven't seen his two most recent features, so perhaps I was just missing this progression of him creating more and more beautiful shots. But this was stunning to me. This was stunning.
Yeah, Asteroid City is mostly in the desert, so you do have some great visuals. And by the way, the two most recent I think that we're talking about are The French Dispatch and Asteroid City. I enjoyed both
Yes.
of those more than some of the ones that came before it.
Yes.
I enjoy both of those much more than this one. In general, this is sort of fun. It's a bit of a lark. We're seeing Michael Cera right now as a character with an accent that I don't think I ever bought. So I always figured, like, okay, I think that even in this movie, this isn't a real person. And I was
Yeah.
right. Spoiler alert for everybody. But
He okay, people are really heralding his performance. How did you feel about Michael Cera's performance in this?
I thought when you are putting this movie together and you're like, well, I want Michael Cera to do this, he gave you the most Michael Cera performance Michael Cera can give. So I thought it was fine. But I actually would have preferred had he not been like a double agent. And I don't mind spoiling it really because,
Yeah.
if he'd legitimately just been this weird guy who's there to teach him about insects, that would have been more interesting to me. But yeah, I think that when he's just the regular guy, he even says like, "Do you want me to go back to using the accent?" And me in the theater, I didn't shout this out because I'm not a dick. I'm like, "Yes, I would like you to
Yeah.
go back to the accent, please,
Please.
Mr. Sarah, if you don't mind." Um, so I think that, and look, our friend the One Pun agrees that Asteroid City was interesting, and that I think bears closer examination. But this is such a complicated. It's a scheme, the Phoenician scheme. You don't know why it's called the Phoenician scheme, and I'm not sure that I understand it. Even I saw the movie. I wasn't going to go see it again. I'm not going to lie. And they map out, he's trying to get the money from everybody, and he's not getting it, and then he's going to make up the difference. And I was like, what is happening here, Kaylee? What
Christian,
happened?
I just saw this movie, and then you just said, "Oh yeah, Michael Cera was a double agent," and I was like racking my brain. I was like, "When does that happen?" Like,
And
I
then
literally
in the
don't
third act,
understand.
yeah,
I don't understand anything that happened in this movie. I felt like I was zoning out. I felt like I was getting bored, and I don't usually get bored at movies, and I especially don't usually get bored at movies in theaters.
yeah.
Usually, that's something I get really excited about, and I just could not follow this one. I couldn't do it. It was it felt all of the delivery of the plot devices was so dry.
Yeah.
There are these long explanations, very beautiful explanations of things, but very long explanations of, this part of the scheme, this part of my plan is in this box, and this part of my plan is in this box, and over here we have this. And I was like, just tell me what's happening here. Like I don't understand. And the most unfortunate part about that was that the first 7 minutes of this movie hooked me. We
Yeah.
start out in an airplane and we get a bloody mess. And I feel like that is relatively rare in Wes Anderson movies. And I was like, whoa, this is going to be amazing. And I was all pumped up and I was like, so excited. And then it just like lost me the entire rest of the way.
Yeah, I do think it absolutely starts incredibly strong, and
Yeah.
I was a little put off by where it went, because the idea that, like, oh, this guy's constantly they're constantly trying to kill him. He has survived numerous assassination attempts. He survives multiple plane crashes, and I think when I saw this, it was after that Indian Air plane crash where
Yep.
one guy walked away, and it's so improbable that everybody's like, well, I think he's a fake. I think he wasn't even on the plane, but he's got the ticket, his name's on the manifest, and he's actually like covered in blood, and everybody's like, yeah, that guy seems like a faker. So it was like, I was like, it wasn't intentionally, but it felt a little ripped from the headlines to me. And yeah, I was so interested, and you're right, it's the first like 7 minutes of this movie, and it's compelling but not interesting. It's like, I'm not looking away, I don't want to check my phone, but it's like, all right. And I think that it's guilty of misusing some great actors that you have. By the time we get Benedict Cumberbatch, and he's got just this ridiculous makeup, and he's really not in it very much. Willem Dafoe's wasted as like one of the angels. He's not even God. Bill Murray wasn't even God, was he? He was just another angel.
I thought
Uh,
he was God.
no, you don't know. Yeah. Sorry, you're right. I was
He's God.
correcting myself ahead of
Yeah.
time. He was God. So that's like, okay, if you're gonna get a cameo out of Bill Murray, that one was fun. But
Well,
Willem
okay.
Dafoe, I was like, man, cast him as something else.
I might remember this incorrectly, but I feel like Bill Murray is Wes Anderson's real daughter's godfather.
I
So I
think
thought
you're
that
right.
that was interesting. And
Yeah.
in addition to that, I do think that the religious aspects of this film are something new that we're seeing from Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know about his more recent stuff. And I know he also did like that anthology of Roald Dahl stuff, didn't he? I feel like he
Oh,
also did something recently that was like a bunch of like short films of Roald Dahl novel things. Like,
this might be something that I didn't see. The Wonderful Story of Harry Sugar and Three
yeah,
More. So yes,
I
I actually I see that now on the list. So I haven't seen that. Was that even theatrical? I don't.
I haven't seen it either. And I don't think it was theatrical. But what I
Okay.
will say is that at least to my knowledge, he hasn't really dived into this religious sort of or overtly religious sort of commentary. And so it was interesting to see him making a movie about a father-daughter relationship where God is played by somebody who is a godfather to his real daughter.
Yeah, no, that is funny. By the way, that movie was out theatrically in like
Ugh,
March of 2024. It just completely
I
missed
had
it.
no idea.
I had no idea until you mentioned it, and it's even on a list that I already pulled to be able to refer to. I just assumed Asteroid City was his last thing, but in any case, yeah, it's so I think that Benicio del Toro is, again, it's like, well, it is compelling because I generally he's a good actor, but I mean, he's not supposed to be likable, and that's
Yeah.
fine. We can all watch unlikable people on our screens. I mean, you think of some of the podcasts that we watch; they're filled with people that we don't like. No names, but in any event, I was just kind of like annoyed. It was like the third time I saw Vince Vaughn in a movie and he was doing the same character from Swingers. I was like, take a breath, man. Just slow it down. Just try and change it up a little.
I'm gonna go off on a Vince Vaughn tangent,
Please do.
and then I'm gonna ask you about Benedict Cumberbatch, which I'm saying so that I don't forget it. Okay, I hated Vince Vaughn so much. I hated him more than anything in the entire world. And then I finally saw Brawl in Cell Block 99, and what's the other one? Same director.
I
I
actually
can't think of
don't
the other.
know what that movie is.
Go
Yeah.
watch those movies.
Okay.
If you hate Vince Vaughn, go watch those movies, and you will have a new appreciation for him. So that is my
Yeah.
little
Well, the
aside
first
about
two
Vince
movies he
Vaughn.
did were both Jon Favreau movies, because he
Yeah.
did obviously Swingers and then Made, and he's the same character in both. And I was just like, I'm tired
He was
just
the same
hearing him talk.
character all the time
I
until
think he was the
he was
same
in Brawl
character.
and Cell Block
He was
99.
the same character throughout the 90s, I
What is the
think.
other name of that movie? The other, it's The director's last name starts with a Z. It doesn't matter. Anyway, let me get back to Benedict
Yes, please
Cumberbatch.
get back to
So,
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I had an interesting reaction. There is a very big scene where Benicio del Toro's character and Benedict Cumberbatch's character are having a fight.
Yes.
And I had a very big realization during that sequence that I cannot figure out if Wes Anderson has started to become influenced by the Daniels or if the Daniels all along have been super heavily influenced by Wes Anderson. Like, do you see that? Am I out of my mind?
No. I hadn't thought that on my own, but I do think that it is entirely possible. But it does become a chicken or the egg. Like, which one's the
Yeah.
chicken, which one's the egg? Our friend, the one pun, says it's like Jack Black, Will Smith, and various others being cast as the same thing over and over. Actor fatigue. Fortunately, Will Smith has moved on and he's gotten back to music. I don't know if you've heard the song of the summer, Cayley. I Like Girls. And you keep in mind this guy's almost 60, and
I'm gonna stick to Wild Wild West. That's the only Will Smith song I'm listening to this summer.
it makes Wild Wild West look like rock and roll by Led Zeppelin. Let's just put it that way. So I do like a little wiki Wild Wild West. And Dave, Sarah, great to see you. I don't know why you're saying hi to Carl on here. I wasn't referring to him. I was talking about people like Chad. The one pun, Nightmare on My Street, Will Smith.
Oh yeah.
The unauthorized Nightmare on Elm Street song. And then the Fat Boys had an authorized Freddy Krueger song called Ready for Freddy, and Robert Englund's in it. And it's a much worse song than Nightmare on My Street. So anyway, yeah, you want to talk late 80s. It's not even hip hop at the time. Late 80s safe rap, white people friendly rap. I'm your guy. You want to talk about the Fat Boys and DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince? We can do that. In any case, Benedict Cumberbatch, I was annoyed not by him, but I was just like, this is what you did with him, And I don't know. I think that in general, I'm glad that you got to see this movie and that I hadn't seen it yet. I was just like, okay, great. You check it out. We'll check it out. Because if I'd already seen it, I would be like, oh, I kind of feel bad because I don't know. Did you feel like you wasted your time at the movie theater, Cayley?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like I wish I had gone like a little bit more sleepy so that I could have gotten in a really good nap. Like I feel like this would have been a really good hour and a half long nap for me. Now, that being said, I'm glad that I saw it, and will I ever watch it again? Absolutely not. But it was beautiful, and it was interesting, and it did have some exciting moments to it. It just is not something that I ever feel the need to rewatch, which almost all of Anderson's movies, I do feel the need to rewatch them. I think I might have mentioned this to you also when we were talking about doing this. Wes Anderson is neither my favorite director whose first name is Wes, nor my favorite director whose last name is Anderson.
I remembered that you said that, and I'm assuming Wes Craven is your favorite.
Correct. Wes Craven, absolutely. And then Roy Anderson, who did probably most famously A Swedish Love Story, but my favorite of his is probably You the Living. He did Pigeon Sat on a Branch. I think those three were actually a trilogy.
And here I thought
trilogy.
You the Living was an Anthrax album. So I'm going to have to do some homework because I don't know. You said his name is Roy Anderson?
Roy Anderson.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't know Roy Anderson at all. But
he's amazing.
Okay. But I do know Wes Anderson. So finish your thought. Sorry.
Roy Anderson actually does he does kind of like little vignettes, but he does a lot of examining how humans interact. And I think that Wes Anderson does that a lot too. You the Living has the funniest scene that I've ever seen in my entire life in a movie.
Oh,
so
I like that. All right. I'll see it and then I'll report back as to what I think it is. Nasty Meal says, I figured she'd say Paul Thomas Anderson. Paul Thomas Anderson can be great.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like me a little PTA, but not always.
And it's almost like for me, it's not as bad as M. Night Shyamalan, but it is bad in the way that he usually has me for most of the movie. And like Magnolia, I thought was great, and then starts raining frogs, and I'm like, what? Wait, what? Isn't this a little heavy-handed? Oh, look, it's the frogs are still raining. And Licorice Pizza, I thought was very bad, and also the inexplicable racist scenes. There's two of them with the guy from I forget that actor's name, but you know he's just doing this really broad racist character doing like an Asian voice, and not only is there no payoff, not only does it not make any sense, he does it a second time, and I was like. When that movie was out, I was like, nobody's talking about this part of it. Everybody's like, oh, it's so creepy that the girl from Haim likes the kid who is too young for her. I was like, can we go back to the really racist part? Like a racist scene in a movie should make sense, Cayley. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Jackie Robinson movie 42. But Alan Tudyk plays the manager of the Philadelphia team, and I believe it was the Phillies at that point and not the Athletics, but I'm not that old. And he's so like unbelievably racist, and just the things he's saying to Jackie Robinson from the dugout. But I'm like, I bet that's the way it was, and you need somebody to actually represent that. I don't know. No, Licorice Pizza, I did not like.
You know, I did a review of Licorice Pizza a very long time ago, and it ended up on the cutting room floor, and I never released it. Um, I am a big fan of Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is actually
Yeah.
from Rochester, and
No,
so
I
of
didn't know
course
that.
Cooper Hoffman was in that movie, his
Yeah.
son, and actually his mother, Philip Seymour Hoffman's mother, regularly goes to the movie theater that I go to. So I have a very minimal friendship. I'm making it sound like I know her better than I do, but I've had a couple of little conversations with her, and I asked her once how she felt about Licorice Pizza and how she felt about her grandson's performance, and she gave like the most polite and wonderful. She said because they were getting really him and Alana were getting heralded for their performances, and he really did give a great performance regardless of if you like the movie or not. He gave a great performance. She said, I think he was really good in that role. And I was like, I have no idea if the undertones of that are you saying that you don't think that he's a good actor
But
and you think that he was just perfect for that particular role, or like
he was good in that one.
it was
Uh,
very interesting.
that is interesting. I have a very tenuous connection to Philip Seymour Hoffman in that a friend of mine was in rehab with him, and she like couldn't say who it was at the time, but then after he died, she like texted me and she's like, "That's who it
By the
was."
way,
Yeah,
yeah.
and as a but okay, so let's address Nasty Meal, which is still very funny. Paul Thomas Anderson, greatest director ever. I'm gonna respectfully disagree. I think he's a very talented director. There Will Be Blood is great. That milkshake thing, not everybody necessarily loved that. Here's the comment that I want to make sure we get to. The one point pointing out that Bobcat Goldthwait is an underrated
Yes.
director. I agree wholeheartedly. Yes.
I did an entire review of all of Bobcat's movies. That was actually one of my first reviews.
Whoa.
I love Bobcat Goldthwait. He is one of the best directors of all time. His transition from where he started to where he has ended up has been incredible. He literally intentionally created movies like Willow Creek so that he could work with making a mockumentary before doing things like Call Me Lucky, where he creates a real amazing, heart-wrenching documentary. I cannot say enough good things about him. Shakes the Clown is the best movie of all time. There's no better world-building movie than that.
What I remember about Shakes the Clown was that I was a fan of Bobcat's stand up and the whole like weird delivery and everything that he did in the Police Academy movies,
Yeah.
and I don't think I was prepared for it. But even I don't know, it was at 91, I think. I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is very different, and I don't think that we necessarily had him take a look. And the one pun's agreeing. God Bless America is a
There is
fantastic look at our world.
there is no movie that does world building better than Shakes the Clown. I 100% believe that I live in a world where there are clown bars and clowns hate mimes, and I can't get enough of him. I think he's incredible. I think he's incredible. World's Greatest Dad, destroy. I can't rewatch that movie now that we don't have Robin Williams. That
Oh my
movie
God, yeah.
is.
Which one would you rather go into, a clown bar or a mime bar?
I want to be friends with the clowns.
Yeah, I do too. The mimes are annoying, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess if I wanted to read a book in the bar, it'd be great because the mimes, would be keeping. They'd be like, pulling ropes and being trapped and.
One year, my second ex-husband and I one year did Shakes the Clown Halloween costumes. I
Oh,
made him a Shakes the Clown costume, and I was Binky.
oh my gosh,
It was great.
and shocking that that's an ex-husband because the fact that that worked,
I know.
but look, even
He missed
even
out.
even a broken clock is right once a year, Kaylee.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what that was. So anyway, we veered off a little bit, which is fine because I enjoy talking about all these things. And yeah, the one pun, can't we go one day without addressing juggalos? So my apologies. Uh, but what I do want to know, and we'll sort of go through the Wes Anderson filmography in a moment, but I don't want to put a gun to your head, but if someone did and they said, "What's your favorite Wes Anderson movie?" Does it come to mind immediately, or do you have to think about it?
It's probably two. I
Okay.
would, depending on the day that you asked me, it would probably be Royal Tenenbaums or actually I loved Moonrise Kingdom.
I thought Moonrise Kingdom was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. I thought that he did a good job. That and Rushmore, I feel like, are two examples of
Rushmore's
him
so
telling
good.
great stories that involve kids, but not in like a kiddie way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not childish in any way, but and I think that's probably why Rushmore resonated so well with people because it's not what they were expecting. Um, I it has to be Royal Tenenbaums for me because I think it's his best film. I think the cast is amazing. Look, it's a movie with Gwyneth Paltrow in it, and I'm saying it's a great movie. Usually it has to have Iron Man in it as well for it to be a movie with her that I say is a good movie. But she's
I
great
just
in that movie.
I just rewatched Shallow Hal, so
Oh,
yes, I agree.
you just want shallow Hal. Uh, in any case, and I have, I think that I really enjoyed Jarling Limited. I had
Yeah,
the
I
feeling
did
that he
too.
was probably going through stuff with like a brother specifically. I don't know what his family makeup is. It was just so personal, and you just really kind of felt like, okay, this is a guy who gets what it's like to have siblings. I have an older brother and a younger sister, and I do remember that. One that I think a lot of people don't like that I thought was very fun yet flawed is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou because it was a vehicle for Bill Murray, and it was a fun playground. Willem Dafoe's in it, getting Angelica Houston back. So I thought that one was fun. I can't say it's my favorite. I can't say it's even like one of his like five best, but I think it's a bit of a sleeper, is what I'm trying to say. I think a lot of people maybe had a bad reaction to it. The buzz was bad. Did you hate that one, Kaylee?
I did not. It's funny. I actually feel like in my friends' circles, that is the most beloved of them. And
Oh,
I
okay.
always get kind of made fun of for not liking it and not putting it at the top of my list. I think that it is a perfectly reasonable movie that I never want to rewatch. It is,
That's fair.
I enjoyed it. I've seen it maybe like two or three times and I've enjoyed watching it those two or three times, but I'm never like, oh my God, I gotta put this on. Whereas Royal Tenenbaums, all the time, I'm like, I just need to watch a little bit of Royal Tenenbaums right now. Like, I
I
just need to do it.
I worked on a radio show, and there was one black employee there, and there were nicknames for everybody. So he got referred to as Coltrane because of the line from there. You doing my wife, Coltrane? So, and I still will, if I have him on the podcast, which I do sometimes, I still introduce him as Coltrane because that's what
I
people
love
know
that.
him as. And I do love. I think that sometimes you can say that like, oh, well, that's like such a pedestrian pick, but it is his best movie. It's To me, it's inarguably his best movie. It's like it all works. All of his usual stuff works the best in that movie. It works to other degrees in other movies, but to me,
You know,
I think
I
that's where it
have
works the best.
I have a Royal Tenenbaums tattoo, sort of.
Is it somewhere you can show it, or is it one you can't show?
I don't think I can make that
Oh,
happen.
is it on your
I
leg?
do have, it is on my leg.
Okay.
I might be able to show a little bit of it. I have a Royal Tenenbaums tattoo and I have a Moonrise Kingdom tattoo. So
Oh
I
my
have,
gosh.
for Royal Tenenbaums, I have, it's just like a skull and it has little like mice running through it, but I made them be Dalmatian mice
Oh,
because of Royal
I
Tenenbaums. So
like
I have
that. That's
Dalmatian
cool.
mice. And then I have from Moonrise Kingdom, that one I might be able to show. Let's see here. I have like a little. It's like a little raccoon skin hat, and it says the word when from when they're saying where and when to each other. Can you see my leg?
Oh yeah, we can see it
Yeah.
right there. Look, everybody sees it. And look, there's the thumbnail now for the episode, Kaylee. And that's yeah, now I love that. That's great. So obviously you're a fan, and
Yeah.
I do want to ask you. He's not your favorite Wes. What is your favorite Wes Craven movie?
It has to be Last House on the Left.
Okay,
I
you know what? I'm gonna yes, that is the correct answer.
I that movie, okay, so there's like I actually was just talking about this the other day because I love that movie. I think it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. I think it's I think it's harrowing and challenging to watch in all of the right ways. But there's 1,000 different cuts of that movie. It's really hard to find. That movie has been cut to pieces a million
Hmm.
different times. So pretty much every time you watch a version of that, you're watching a different version of it.
Right, it's like Blade Runner. You have to
And
make sure that you select the correct
the
version. Yeah,
correct one.
yeah.
There is one version of that, and I am I am really hoping this is not a false memory. I remember there is one scene in Last House on the Left where Krug and the gang are down by the river and they're washing off after doing some nefarious things that have involved blood and horrible stuff. And one of them, there's like a downward shot. The camera angle is down onto one of their hands, and he's like turning his hands over and looking at them. And it's such a beautiful little moment of reflection and such a horrifyingly awful moment that I fell in love with that movie. And I have not been able to find the cut of that movie that includes that scene. I am positive that it exists somewhere. I can't find it. But if anybody is aware of that, please send it my way because I would really
Yeah.
like to see that again.
No,
That's just a great movie. It's a
and I
great movie.
can't say one way or the other, like, oh, that was definitely not in the cut that I've
Oh, it
seen,
was
that
in
or
it.
it was. No, I'm just saying,
Yeah, in your
I'm
cut.
not that I don't believe you, but I can't help out. The one pun points out the Fantastic Mr. Fox was kind of fun, and
I
I do
loved
remember
it.
really enjoying that,
I
and
loved that
surprisingly
movie.
so. I had read the Fantastic Mr. Fox as a kid, and I was talking to my wife about this movie recently because one, we saw it together, but also our son, soon to be 10, he just read this as part of he's doing like summer reading.
Yeah.
You read enough, you get like a free pizza from Pizza Hut.
What
It's
year is
some
it?
well, yeah, believe me, it's like something we did when we were
Wait,
kids,
they
and
really have that again?
they still have that, or they have it again. So yes, my kid is going to get a free pizza from Pizza. Both of them are going to get, and so
Is
he,
there an age limit? Can I do this right now?
I'm not sure. That's a great question. You should inquire at your local Pizza Hut, and you have nieces, right? I
I have
remember.
one niece, yeah.
So
Oh my God.
just to have her say she read a bunch of books,
I'm gonna
and
steal her free pizza.
yeah, I know she'll be like, but I like pizza. It's like, shut up.
Yeah. You
I
don't,
just
7-year-old.
I
You quiet your
I
hole.
I
Read
brought
more
you
books.
I brought you an uncrustable, and I'm gonna eat the pizza. I was surprised by Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I remember we had Wes Anderson on the radio show to promote that. It was so I got to tell him just how much my wife and I enjoyed it. Fun version of that, by the way. I also saw I don't know if it's the same summer, but I saw Terminator Salvation, which I think is the one with Christian Bale. Anyway, whichever the one with Christian Bale is. I saw it with my wife. We thought it was pretty good and we had fun. McG directed that. So he's on the radio show, and I answered the phone, and we were about to put him on hold, and I was like, "Oh, my wife and I saw it last night. We really enjoyed it." And he said, "Really?" So even McG was like, "You." I think it wasn't a fun experience for him. That is where the Christian Bale audio comes from. The set. Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
That. So maybe he didn't have fun on it, but look, the Terminator movies that have come since then are way worse. So they're kind of all bad except for the first two.
Yeah.
None of them are good. But anyway, that's
I really loved Fantastic Mr. Fox. It was really interesting to see it. Obviously we now have Isle of Dogs, but it was really interesting to see Wes Anderson venture into animation, and I thought he handled it perfectly. And I thought that he adapted the story perfectly. And it is very challenging to adapt doll things into movies. Like, that is a hard thing to do successfully. And he did
Yeah,
it.
and I mean, we have one good Willy Wonka movie, and then we have the Tim Burton one,
Yeah.
and interestingly, nobody ever went in on the sequel, the Charlie and the Great Glass
Yeah,
Elevator.
yeah.
To be fair, my son tapped out of that book, and I read it when I was like in second grade, and I remember liking it. But I think I just liked the movie so much. I was just imagining, I was imagining Gene Wilder, in these situations. It wasn't very good. The sequel, they go to space. It's not good, but in any case, they are very hard. And I'm trying to think. James and the Giant Peach, I remember
It was okay.
fondly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
but
my favorite, absolutely, my favorite doll book is The Twits. I really want to see somebody do a good adaptation of that.
I don't think nobody's ever done that, right?
I don't
Yeah.
believe so.
I
If they
don't think
have, I
so.
am not aware of it.
Still talk.
Wes Anderson would do a great job of that. I would like to see
Yeah, but
him.
it might get a little wordy at times.
Yeah,
So
well,
the one pun again, talking about Fantastic Mr. Fox, that he likes Clooney doing the voice in it. I got to be honest though, George Clooney kind of bugs me now. He does this head wiggle in all of his movies. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. But he's
oh
a
no,
fox
you
in that
ruined my
movie.
life.
Yeah, I know. But and he had this little like this little thing that he would do in it,
Yeah,
and I thought that was great. I think that that's the one Wes Anderson movie that I can show my kids at this point, and especially because he just read the book. So, but
I'm trying to think when I first saw it. So I saw both Bottle Rocket. No, I probably saw Rushmore first. I also rented the VHS
yeah,
video.
what's
So
up?
I and I liked the cover of it. I am very much a judge a book by its cover, judge a movie by its cover. I am a full supporter of that. I know people think that's stupid, but I always do it. So I got Rushmore specifically because I thought the cover looked interesting, and I didn't know anything about it, so I just grabbed it.
Uh, yeah,
And I think I was probably pretty young. I think I was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 when I saw that.
when you saw Fantastic Mr. Fox, well, it was
No, when I
released
saw Rushmore.
when you saw Rushmore, which came out in '98. Yeah. Oh, that's
So I must
interesting.
have been
Yeah.
a little bit older than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember like, oh, okay, this is the Bottle Rocket guy, and there was so much buzz for
Yeah,
Rushmore
there was.
that
Yeah.
it was hard to avoid. I found this interesting. I went to IMDb instead of Rotten Tomatoes. And this is what IMDb, this is just from their, audience ranking. So how many stars? And these are all the rankings of all the Wes Anderson movies. And Grand Budapest Hotel is at number one, which I can respect, but you can see the screen we're looking at right now, Cayley. So the rankings are Grand Budapest Hotel, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Moonrise Kingdom, which I love. I love dogs. So we don't even get on the first screen, we don't get Royal
How is
Tenenbaums.
that
It's not
possible?
until number 5. So you have what are probably my top 4 in order: Royal Tenenbaums, Rushmore, Desjardins Limited, Life Aquatic, and I don't know that Bottle Rocket should be at 10. It's definitely, you have to look at it through a certain lens. You know what I mean? It's what
That's
he was making at the time.
crazy.
And the Phoenician Scheme is not better than Asteroid City. Asteroid City, I do think you should check out at some point.
Okay, I will.
Um, but I wouldn't similarly tell anybody. The French Dispatch is very odd. It's more in the vein of this one, you know. But I
I
enjoyed
have heard from a lot of people that they turned off French Dispatch. So,
yeah. Yeah, I think that this list is crazy is my point, Cayley. I mean,
yeah, that's insane.
I putting Phoenician Scheme above Asteroid City must be some kind of recency bias, because I mean, the middle of the list is the best part. The 5, 6, 7, and 8. Just for me, if you want to take or leave Life Aquatic, that's fine. And I mean, I would put Moonrise Kingdom above Life Aquatic now that I'm seeing it. But I mean, Fantastic
You
Mr. Fox is fun, but I mean, it's not a Wes Anderson movie in the way that we're thinking, is it?
well, I would still categorize. I still think that it has all
Okay,
of his normal tropes. We
that's
get
true.
travel in the way that he does travel. We get all of the normal things that Wes Anderson does. But what I will say about this that I think is interesting, which is just making me realize how old that I am, I think you are right that there probably is a recency bias in this, and I would venture to guess that most people who are in their early 30s now have maybe not even seen Royal Tenenbaums. So I when I went and saw Moonrise Kingdom, I actually brought my friend's daughter and her friend to go see that movie in the theaters. And I used to take them to the movies all the time. And they were about 14 or 15 at the time that I took them to see Moonrise Kingdom. And that was the movie, that was like when I realized that they were becoming adults because they had actual like adult related commentary about that movie. But
Oh yeah.
that was their introduction to Wes Anderson. And now, so when did Moonrise Kingdom come out?
2012.
Yeah, so now they're in their late 20s, whatever, I can't do math. Um they're
Now they
they
have two divorces.
they wish, come on. They probably did not go back and watch the backlog even though they loved that movie, even though
Yeah.
that actually my Moonrise Kingdom was that tattoo was done by one of those girls. It was like one of her first tattoos when she
Oh, very cool.
became a tattoo artist. So that was very special. But I would bet that they did not go back and kind of like revisit the catalog because I think that the idea of like falling in love with a director and really following that director and finding all of their movies, I think that that is something that we do more as older humans because that was how we found good movies back in the day. Whereas now we have so much access to know, is a movie good or is it not good? You don't necessarily need to just rely on knowing, hey, I like this director or hey, I like this actor. You can just see immediately, is this a good movie or a bad movie? And I would bet that a lot of people haven't even seen Royal Tenenbaums, which is crazy to
I
say.
think we get to this point, and yeah,
It's
people,
crazy.
there are people that went and saw the Phoenician scheme because they're like, oh well, it's new, and
Do
it's
you keep
interesting.
wanting to call it the Phoenician scandal? Because I
Yeah, I
keep
do.
wanting to. Why is it's a
It's such,
horrible name?
yeah. I guess it's not a scandal at the center of the film though, so that must be
It,
why it's a scheme. It is definitely a scheme, Kaylee.
I hate
So
this movie.
but to be I like that it just boils down to that. But yeah, I mean, when you think about like obviously myself included, so many people were excited to see Pulp Fiction because they saw Reservoir Dogs on
Yeah.
VHS. I saw Reservoir Dogs on a screen as sort of like a promotional thing. They had a trailer for Pulp Fiction before it, but it was again a movie that got found on VHS, and I think a lot of people saw it. And Tarantino's a perfect example that I will see everything. There is one movie that I don't care much for that a lot of people like, and we talked about it with Husey. Actually, it's Jackie Brown, and I still see everything. And you know, another director that we covered with Husey was M. Night Shyamalan, where I only let myself get burned by him 3 times. People have been burned by him like 12 times and they
Again and
keep going.
again.
I got tricked. His movie Trap, they made me think the trailer looked really good, and
I
it's good
liked
for the
it.
first 2 acts. Did you see
Yeah.
Trapped? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought you did. Yeah. So as soon as he gets out of the arena, you're like, oh, this is a terrible movie. It wasn't a great movie, and boy, was it a vehicle for his daughter to launch a singing career.
I I mentioned this very briefly when we were talking about this on
Yeah.
Hughes' episode, but what I will say about Trapped that I think was very interesting is it is a movie where, of course, you're absolutely right. It was a vehicle for his daughter. There is nepotism out the wazoo. But it's funny because at one point, Shyamalan himself has a cameo in the movie,
Oh yeah,
and he plays a guy who got a job because of nepotism.
that's right.
And
I
so
forgot about that.
I liked the self awareness where he was
Yeah,
like, okay, yeah, I did
he
this.
at
Like,
least knew, yeah. So, and Wes Anderson, even after this movie, I'm still gonna see the next one. But
yeah.
at some point, and the one pun, I will certainly agree with this comment. I'll watch anything Matt and Trey put out. Don't sleep on Cannibal or Orgasmo. Those are both amazing. Cannibal
Yes.
the musical, the fact that they made it during spring break, I think they were juniors in college, and it's like the level of one, the songwriting that Trey Parker wrote all those songs,
I
and
sing those songs all the time.
well, it's because every day is a spadoinkle day
It
when
is.
you're once over with Cayley / Lucy Tightbox.
I love
Every
it.
day.
Every
Yeah.
day.
And by the way, their sitcom, That's My Bush with President Bush in the White
Yeah.
House, was so funny. And then 9/11 happened. So they're like, yeah, I guess we're not doing that show anymore.
They
But
are a
it
wealth
was,
of talent. Wealth
yeah,
of talent.
those guys are amazing. I agree. If they're doing,
And
and
basketball.
basketball. Book of Mormon. I know so many people who are like, "Oh, I hate Broadway musicals," but I had to see Book of Mormon and I loved it. Which
Yeah.
does say that there might be other musicals you might like
Cannibal
if
the
you like.
musical. That's whenever people say I don't like musicals, I'm always like, let's watch Cannibal the musical. You'll like it.
It's so good.
You'll like it. You get to hear Cartman's voice for a little while.
Just a
You'll
little
like it.
bit.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
fun. I love them so much. I think that they're amazing. Also, my first ex-husband, as long as we're talking about my ex-husbands, my first ex-husband was an extra in Basketball,
Oh, how
which
about
I
that?
learned on the morning of our wedding. And then that
Oh.
was my vows to him was I love learning new things about you every day, like the fact that you were in Basketball.
Well, the fact that he's your ex-husband implies that you learned too many things at one
Yeah, I
point,
did.
and you were like, "Oh, well, you know what? Maybe it was better when I didn't know everything."
It was
Did
that
they film?
he
Did they
was
film that?
also he was also an extra in Shallow Hal. That was actually what caused the divorce. No, I'm lying.
It's very funny. Did they film that in that area, or did he just
It
live
was
somewhere
filmed
else?
in no, it was filmed. He was from Southern California, so he
Oh,
was
okay.
from like Rancho Cucamonga area.
Oh, yeah, where all the classy people live. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I also thought that Rancho Cucamonga was a fake town name. I did
Mhm.
not realize that that
Yeah,
was a
like
real
Walla Walla,
place.
Washington. Yeah.
Yeah,
Th-
he told me for like 2 years of our relationship, I'm from Rancho Cucamonga, and one day I was finally like, "All right, where are you actually from?" And he was like, "No, that's a real
Yeah,
place." I was
there's
like,
a
"Oh,
there's a Krusty the
okay."
Clown bit where he's listing off funny places, and one of them's Rancho Cucamonga.
Rancho
It, it,
Cucamonga. Yes.
it's not a clip that I have at the ready. It's not an appropriate time to use it, but I could play the one where he's like, "Oh no, talk to the audience." So
My
that's always a
my
favorite.
7-year-old niece is obsessed with Krusty the Clown, which is highly inappropriate, so she just makes me play her little Krusty the Clown
Yeah.
stuff. But Lego just came out with a Krusty Burger set, so I got that
No,
for her
did they?
birthday.
You
Yeah.
know, at the Simpsons area of Universal Studios here, they do have a
Yep.
Krusty Burger that you can go
Oh,
to,
I do know that. I
and
have had
the
it.
the souvenir shop is a quickie mart. So my kids saw the most Simpsons they've ever seen by going on that ride and eating at a restaurant. And I still don't I don't I mean I guess I was 14 when the weekly series started, and I still don't know if they're ready for it, but I'm sure I could hand select some episodes.
Well, I will tell you this. I watched every single episode starting on original air date, and I was born in 1987. So
Oh, so you when you
I have been
started,
watching The Simpsons since I was literally a baby.
right? Yeah, I mean
And
they were the shorts on Tracy Ullman when you were a baby. So
Matt Groening was a huge advocate for watching television, consuming media is a very, very important thing in children's lives. So I am a huge advocate for all
oh,
kids should watch The
I,
Simpsons.
it's one of the most important things of my childhood. It's a
Yes.
defining moment. By the way, the one pun has the crusty seal of approval tattooed in his thigh. I'm in The Simpsons deep. Kaylee, when you say that you watch every episode of The Simpsons, do you still watch?
I fell out. So I used to watch every episode on
Sure.
original air date. That was like that was my family time when I was a kid. My mom, dad, and I would all sit around the TV. We would all cuddle up around the little
I
teeny
love
tiny
that. Yeah.
TV, and we would watch The Simpsons every single week. And we would watch it every night. We would watch the syndication every night. But I fell off of watching Simpsons episodes on original air date around season 25. So every season from season one. I didn't really watch the Tracy Ullmans when they were on Tracy Ullman. I was a
Yeah.
little too young for that. But every single episode from season one through around season, I can't remember if it's 24 or 25, I watched on original air date.
Well,
And I still watch them. I'm not quite as obsessive anymore.
I got to a point where on my DVR I had a season and a half of Simpson episodes, and then I was like, well, I guess clearly I'm not going to watch these, and they're all on Disney Plus. So it's my son was very small at that point, so it's almost 10 years that I haven't watched, and I understand that they could still be watchable, and I was still watching during seasons where I would tell people that every year there would be like probably two that I would like, these ones are really good. There'd
Yeah.
be a couple that one was pretty good, and then there would be a lot where I'm like, what is this about? Like, wasn't it about something for the first 4 minutes? And then ever since then, it's just one of Homer's crazy schemes. But
Yeah, it went downhill for a while and then it kind of came back up. But yeah, I love Matt Groening. I have my Matt Groening tattoo. I have my mistakes were made. Little Binky the bunny over here.
I,
And speaking of the Simpsons tattoos, because the one pun mentioned his crusty seal of approval, I don't have any Simpsons tattoos, which is insane because it's like my favorite thing in the world.
yeah,
But I have a plan for a Simpsons tattoo. And if anybody steals this, I will be very upset at you. Somebody probably has already done it before, but this was my original idea. It's all I've ever wanted to do. I used to shave the sides of my head, and I want to get the Homer Simpson M on one of
oh,
like the hairline. I want to get his
that's a
hairline on the
great
side of my
idea.
head. If
Uh,
anybody steals that, I will kill you.
my friend's little sister, who, because I'm old, his little sister's like, in her like late 30s now. She has the coyote from the chili cook-off episode, where Homer
Yeah,
goes, and
yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
was just like, that's such a it's a bit of a deep pull, and I'm like, that's why it's a great tattoo, because you have to know. And all right, the one pun is going to disappoint you. He's seen
Dang
people
it.
with that, but if you don't see it going around Rochester, I think you'll be all right.
I
In
thought it
any
was
case,
so clever.
I
I've had that idea in my head for like 10 years and I just haven't done
but
it
now you
yet.
put it out there into the world. But you have somebody who could tattoo it for you.
I
You're
do. I do.
so let's circle back on Wes Anderson for a
Yeah, we
moment.
probably should.
So what did but look, it just makes me realize we should talk about our favorite Simpsons episodes at some point. And there have been so many since this one, but for a long time mine was 22 short stories about Springfield, because
That's
it
a
was just
most people don't say that one. That's
no, I know, but
interesting.
that's what I love about it, is that it's a little bit of everybody, and that's why I thought it was so cool and it was so unnatural. It might not be my favorite anymore, uh, but I don't know. Let's think about it. We can do that. We can
Yeah.
easily do that. And one pun points out that he's in Oregon and they're Simpsons deep. Did you
Oh yeah.
appreciate that I didn't say Oregon? Playing the Oregon Trail in school. So Wes Anderson,
Yes.
you did not like this movie.
Correct.
If the next
Overall.
movie comes out in 2 years and I'm like, hey, you want to talk about that movie, will you still go see it?
Yes, I will. Also, that's the other thing about Wes Anderson that I think is interesting. Is he oversaturating himself? You just said in 2 years. I don't think he's going to put out another
it
movie in 2 years. I think he's going to put out
yeah,
another movie next year.
yeah,
I feel like he's doing the thing where um, it's too much. It's literally, it's again, he's a caricature of himself. It's the same thing when Homer Simpson is doing another Homer Simpson scheme. It's too Homer Simpson-y. It's too Wes Anderson-y. And it's been like back to back to back to back to back. We can wait a couple of years and put out something that like an auteur would put out. We can do that. It's okay to wait, Wes.
yeah. I would like something that's more in the vein of, to me, French Dispatch was almost an attempt to do another Grand Budapest Hotel, but just not succeeding in that respect. But to me, it was still largely entertaining. And it's almost like, yeah, maybe do something like that.
Yeah.
Approach it like that. This story was just so out there for the Phoenician scheme, and so convoluted, and also complicated. And there's a lot of gags in it where it's like, well, what about this, and then it's like, all right, but now the story's gone in this direction, and should you have included the mother superior from her convent that's there, and then it's like, all right, I guess we're closing the door on her being a nun now, which was actually kind of interesting, so that she could end up with Michael Cera, I
Yeah,
guess.
I know.
Who wants to end up with Michael Cera? I mean, think about Juno, the film, okay? And that's somebody who, Elliot Page didn't want to be with Michael Cera so much that they became Elliot Page. I'm just saying. Although I did love the running gag on Arrested Development, his girlfriend, where everybody would see her and go, "Her, really?"
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was very mean, but
It's very funny though.
that's my speed. So you feel like you would see the next one, but you're right. He's probably already filming it, or maybe he's in post production on his next film.
I will certainly go see any of his movies. The only reason that I didn't see Asteroid City and French Dispatch and that anthology of the doll novelization or movie, whatever word I'm looking for here, I just stumbled on all of those words. Whatever that Roald Dahl thing was that he did an anthology of. I haven't seen those yet. I intend to. They were just movies that I didn't feel the need to run out to the theater. So to answer your question of Would I watch it and come and talk with you about it? Absolutely, I would. If you don't ask me to talk about it, I will wait 4 years to watch it, and then I will finally see
Okay.
it.
Well, I think that that will certainly be
Yeah.
a great reason to do it because in general I've enjoyed his work.
Yes,
There
agreed.
are these directors, and you're right. It sort of comes from an era that I will always see a Coen Brothers movie. I will always see a Tarantino movie. You know, and Wes Anderson is one of those people that I haven't gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going to skip this one. And I'm usually excited to hear that there's another one because I know it'll be unique. It'll be interesting. At this point, it'll have a great cast.
You know, there's been an interesting shift in the film industry where, again, you and I are used to saying, oh, I love this director, so I'm going to go see their movies. I think now it's become much more about who is the production company. And I think the reason for that is because production companies like A24 are frequently giving the first shot to directors who haven't done anything. That's
Yeah.
how we got Ari Aster. That's how we got, and now you and I say, oh, I can't wait for the next Ari Aster movie. A lot of people say, I can't wait for the next A24 movie.
Right.
I think that that's kind of where the shift is going generationally is we don't necessarily care about who the director is. We understand that a director can be good, but what we would much prefer to see is somebody new getting given a chance. And so they're not necessarily looking for those actors, for those directors. They are looking for the company that can put a good backing and can care about what their output is.
Right, and it's an interesting point about A24 because the movie that I saw last night, The Materialist, that was an A24 movie, and all the trailers were A24 movies. And you have this feeling that, like, if A24 wasn't making these movies, no one would be making these movies. And
Yes.
you can decide whether or not
Neon.
yeah,
Neon
that's
might,
true. Neon,
but
yeah, what Neon did Honora, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, and
Yes.
obviously Sean Baker had a proven track record, but I mean, it's a good example. Yeah.
Speaking of which, did you see? I didn't look into. I really don't like to know things about movies before I see them, but I believe that one of the new A24 movies that's coming out is going to be starring my boy Yuri Borovskov from Anora, and
Oh,
I'm
you did
very
love that guy.
excited to see him. I love him so much. I don't know if you.
I didn't see anything about that, but that'll be great. And the one pun with this point, if I'm skipping someone's movies, it's James Wan.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'd have to. I don't know.
100%.
Yeah, and I should skip at any time Michael Bay is involved with a movie, but I did see every Transformers movie. And I've said this before. Every time that I'm sitting there in the theater thinking about how bad it is, I'm like, well, that's really on you because you went again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely know. But
You
I
didn't
love the
get tricked.
Transformers so much as a kid, Kaylee. It's a loyalty. I have trouble with it.
You didn't get tricked by Shyamalan, but you do
Mm.
keep getting tricked by
By
Michael
Michael
Bay.
Bay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder, I don't get tricked by. And, this, of course, refers to another episode of Hughesy's podcast. But did you see the announcement? And I think we were all actually on the same thread. There will be no more Rebel Moon movies. The Rebel Moon
Oh,
saga has
yes. Very
ended at two
excited.
films,
Thank
and
God.
Zack Snyder will not be able to go in there. Uh,
Little Lemmy must be devastated. We haven't even checked in with her.
oh, yeah. You know what? We
She
should make
liked
sure.
those movies. She unironically liked those movies.
I know. And I was like, man, if you like these movies, you should really go and see the ones that he ripped off for it. But in any event, I was just reading something about how, Zack Snyder's disciples, the Snyder Bros, they're so upset about this James Gunn Superman movie that they want to try and get a boycott together for it because they want this. They're always looking for this Zack Snyder verse to be restored, and it gave us this Snyder cut of Justice League that was 4 hours long. That I know you have enough respect for yourself, Cayley, that you didn't see it. And oh no, did Husey make you watch it? Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh.
I
And
can't even
there's
say words anymore. I'm so
and and
disturbed.
and there's this super close up of the sesame seed from the
I
hamburger.
don't want.
Uh, yeah.
I tried to wipe it from my memory.
But
Yeah, James Gunn is another one though. I really love James Gunn. I'm very excited about everything that he does.
yeah, and I really enjoyed those Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Those are characters that even a big comic book nerd like me, the only one I knew was Rocket Raccoon, and that was barely. I didn't know any of them, and he made it good. He does this Peacemaker TV series with John Cena, which is phenomenal. I don't know if you've ever watched it. It has the best soundtrack of any show because it's all late 80s, early 90s
He makes a good soundtrack.
hard rock. Some people would call it hair metal. Some of us find that term offensive, but I mean, there's 3 minutes and Faster Pussycat's House of Pain is playing, and I shout that out because just in case Hack Ride is still there, he likes to make fun of me because of some of the bands that I still like. But
His James Gunn's movie. Have you seen Super that he did?
yeah,
Also with
yeah,
Elliot Page. Amazing, absolutely. It got completely outshined by Kick-Ass, and I'm not at all
yes,
trying. I'm not trying to say anything bad about Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass is also Kick-Ass, but Super is quite super. And
yeah.
it just got completely
The
outshined because they
problem
came out
was
around the
both of
same
those
time.
movies came out around the same time, and I thought the first Kick Ass was amazing. The second one wasn't as good, and it didn't help that Jim Carrey was bad mouthing it after it came out.
I will say if I had to choose between those movies though and Super, I would choose Super every time.
I'm not going to disagree with you. And by the way, I really like Kick Ass. I think Kick
Yeah,
Ass is
me too.
phenomenal.
Again,
But
I'm not at all
yeah,
trying to say anything bad. I would choose Super every time.
Chris Tudhill, who was sitting here silently until now, pointing out that Super is much better. The dialogue is great.
Yeah,
And
completely agreed.
the BYB podcast, what's up, Quad? I didn't know you
Hey,
were here.
Quad.
He heard that Lucy was here. So he's like, all right, I'll check it out. Quad, are you hollering right now? Is that why you're here? Kick Ass was very good.
It was so
And
good.
yeah, and I thought that she's done so much since then, but for Chloe Grace Moretz to be a hit girl in that movie, and she was like just so good, and I was so excited to hear that they're like cast her in a remake of Carrie, but then I realized, wait, the last thing I want to see is a remake of Carrie, so I never saw it. I never saw it. I couldn't do that to myself. You know what I mean? There's there's remakes that I'm just like, nah, because you were talking about Vince Vaughn before. I've never seen that shot by shot remake of Psycho. I couldn't do that to myself. I didn't want to see that.
You made the right choice.
If I want to see Psycho, there's a really good
Yeah.
one, and
Yeah.
what and I'm not.
I showed okay, so those same girls that I
Yeah.
took to see Moonrise Kingdom. So when my friend's daughter, when she turned, I believe it was 13, she wanted to have a horror movie sleepover birthday party. And so she asked me to help curate some of the movies that they were going to watch. And so I picked a bunch of movies, and one of the movies that I picked was Psycho. And they, because they were young, this was 20 years ago,
Mhm.
they had never seen Psycho and they did not know the end of Psycho.
Oh.
And I got to watch in a room of, 13-year-old girls, however old they were very young. I got to watch a room of 13-year-old girls lose their shit and go, what just happened? And every single one of them freaking out because everybody, it's the equivalent of Luke, I am your father. Everybody knows the end of Psycho. Like that is not something that you ever get to enjoy not knowing. And again, I think that kind of ties into our conversation about Wes Anderson. This is this whole new generation of like, now these are the things that feel right. And so Wes Anderson becoming a caricature of himself, this makes him more appealing now than the stuff that you and I might love, like Royal Tenenbaums and Moonrise Kingdom and Rushmore and Bottle Rocket.
Yeah, it could be interesting, that somebody, especially somebody who is an aspiring filmmaker, might see the Phoenician Scheme and just be blown away because of the things that we talked about that worked. And just visually, I can see somebody being like, I want to make movies that look like this. And like, great, you should. I want to make movies that are complicated. It's like, okay, well, complicated is one thing, but, this is borderline Tenet in terms of complicated. Tenet being the movie that my
Yeah.
wife and I went to go see. It was at a time where you could only see movies at the drive-in here in California as we were easing out of COVID. And she wasn't tired, but she went to sleep because she's like, it's just too much to try and keep up. And she woke up for the end. She's like, what I missed? And I was like, you know what? Nothing. The movie spelled the same forwards and backwards. And but in any case, it would be interesting. I hadn't thought about that until we were talking about it, but somebody could see the Phoenician Scheme is going to be somebody's first Wes Anderson movie, and if you're not comparing it to anything, you're like, this is so different than everything else that I've seen, and I can see the takeaway. Chris Tudhill says, I really like the Vince Vaughn remake, but I accept that it's not everyone's cup of tea. It was really just one of those, like, I don't know why they did it, you know? To me, it's like Weezer's cover of Africa by Toto. That is like note for note, almost the exact same song. And they didn't put any flourish on it. So it's like, you know, if I want to hear Africa by Toto, I would listen to Africa by Toto, not
Yeah.
Weezer doing Africa by
Africa
Toto.
by Toto.
It's
Well, it's
just,
the same thing. It's what Cabin Fever. There's the
yeah.
shot for shot remake of that. Like that's I don't understand it.
Yeah. Now, I get when you want to do a shot for shot, like of a specific sequence or something
Yeah.
like that, especially if somebody does a video that's like an homage, you know, things like that. But yeah, when your whole movie is like, well, you know, that movie that exists, yeah, we just did it over. I don't know why. By the way, Quad wanted us to know that he's always lurking, and it's a little creepy. I was disappointed that Quad, you didn't make it out to Hackamania 2 in Vegas.
I was too.
There were a lot of us that were looking forward to getting the chance to meet you. But maybe
I will.
Hackamania 3.
Can I talk about my favorite shot for shot remake?
Please.
It's a silly one that it was a movie. It's called Flooding with Love for the Kid, and it is
Oh,
a shot for shot remake of First Blood, but the guy who made it plays all of the characters, and
oh my
he
God.
made it so that he made it in his like New York City apartment, so very small. I want to say it was like I don't know, maybe 500 square foot apartment. He remade the entire movie in his apartment with only things that he had there. So like when he was like playing the characters like that had mustaches, he would like grow out a mustache and then shave it off when he wasn't. And so he spent like years and years making this. I feel like that was like kind of a popular thing in like the mid
Yeah,
2000s to
there's
do
like a
stuff
Raiders
like
of the
that.
Lost Ark like that. I
Yeah,
think somebody did a
but
shot by shot. Yeah.
his First Blood, Flooding with Love for the Kid, that movie is outstandingly good, and that's the type of shot for shot remake that I want to watch. Like that's amazing. That's like you're adding something new to it, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you know, we're not talking about like Star Wars movies where they just recycle the plot that there's a new Death Star. We're not talking about that. We're talking about like actually taking it and doing shot for shot. Well, Cayley, it's always delightful to get a chance to talk to you. It had been far too long since you'd been here
Far
on the
too long.
Bladtcast, and you know it's busy summertime movie season for a lot of us. So hopefully there'll be something that strikes your fancy. Is there anything that you know that's coming out that you're like, oh, I'm interested in that? You know, without having to look it up.
The 28 Years Later is coming out this week, right?
I'm seeing that this week, and it's funny. It's not that funny, but I'm going to tell the anecdote anyway. I went to put it in on my Google Calendar that I'm seeing 28 years later with my friend Eric Connor and Liam McEnany. Actually, seeing it tomorrow, and the Google Calendar dated it 28 years in the future. So I put 28 years later with Liam and Eric, and then it just said with Liam and Eric like 2053 or whatever. So
That's so funny. I love that.
okay, I'm glad you're at least humoring it. Yeah.
I actually really
If
like that. That's
if you
funny.
if you see it soon, I am planning on doing a show with either or both of them and Husey. So I'm doing a rewatch today of 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. They skipped 28 months later. In my mind, there was a 28 months later, but they just jumped to years, I guess.
I was trying to think of a funny joke about that, and then I
Oh,
just started thinking about the movie Fido, and then I lost any sort of joke.
oh.
So never mind.
Yeah. Well, I think you were just thinking about, you know, 28 days and you're like, wait a minute, how many days
Yeah.
has it been?
Yeah.
So the one pun wants to see Fantastic
Thank you.
Four. I want to see that franchise get justice. Look, it could definitely, the Fantastic Four deserve a good movie. As I've said many times, the best Fantastic Four movie we've gotten thus far is the Roger Corman one. And I say that only half tongue in cheek because it's at least the most faithful, and the last one being the worst one, the one with Miles Teller and Kate Mara. But yeah, so I will certainly invite you when it's going to basically depend on when Husey sobers up enough, but we'll probably record it next week sometime.
Speaking of Husey, I believe he just joined me for a review of 10 Cloverfield Lane over on my channel once over with Cayley. But I believe that Dan Trachtenberg, who directed 10 Cloverfield Lane, I believe he's the director on the new Predator movie. I try so hard not to know anything about movies that are coming out, so
Right.
I might be entirely wrong. But I really like to just go into a theater and sit down and not know anything. So I might be wrong.
Yeah, no,
Hopefully.
I think that the next Predator movie, I just saw a trailer for it, I think,
And I think it's
and
directed by Dan
it
Trachtenberg,
is,
and he did
yeah,
Prey, and
Predator. Yeah, I
I
was gonna
think
say,
he's
yeah,
interesting.
Predator Badlands and the previous installment
Yes, that's
Prey.
right.
So
Yes,
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 he
yes,
is
yes,
definitely doing that.
yes.
So and the one pun, if you ever need a semi-homeless man to rant about movies or Simpsons, you know where to find me. The one pun, I do know where to find you. I think that I think it would be fun to everybody come equipped with just one Simpsons episode, and they're going to talk about only that one. They have to stick to it. And I think you might know some people who also really like The Simpsons,
Just a
so
couple.
that could be a fun one. Although what there will be none of if we do an episode like, there will be no Simpsons trivia,
I was
because
just
we
gonna
all
say
know
you're
that
gonna
that
make a Trucker Andy joke right
nope.
now, aren't you?
What we don't want is to do a stream with Simpsons trivia. And by the way, if Sam Bibley's going to say shout out Christian Blatt, obviously Sam Bibley's going to get on the screen, but don't worry, he also shouts out Lucy Tightbox, so we appreciate
Hello.
that. The one pun, you should get a channel and give your semi-homeless rants on movies. But even if you don't have one, I would be happy to have you on at some point. So we'll have to touch base. I know in general you don't get automatically excited for superhero movies, but if you started to hear good things about James Gunn's Superman, would you go like, okay, I guess I would see it because it's James Gunn?
Yeah, I will almost certainly see that. Again,
Okay.
I think that he understands superhero movies in a way that makes them more appealing to the masses of people who aren't giant comic book nerds.
Yeah.
I mean, I see a lot of superhero movies and enjoy them to varying degrees. I just don't always get quite as excited as other people do, especially other people who kind of share my love of movies. A lot of the time they get it a little bit more, but generally when James Gunn does something, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go see that in the theater.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. I'm looking forward to that, because you want to talk about like, oh, there hasn't been a good one of something in a long time. To me, there's two good Superman movies, and they were both made by Richard Donner, although technically they took the second one away from him and tried to make it sillier. But I do think that those first two Christopher Reeve Superman movies are good. The second two Christopher Reeve Superman movies are awful. The Bryan Singer one is not great, and the Zack Snyder ones are kind of mixed bag for me. So I would love, because I loved Superman as a kid, and I've never like looked up since then, looked up in the sky and thought it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a really good movie, Cayley. I would love to feel that way. So
One day.
we'll have to see. Well, Cayley, please take a moment. You mentioned a video that you and Husey did about Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane. And Cloverfield's one of those movies that it was so great to not know anything about it going into it, by the way, the first one, because,
And then they
and
waited 8 years, so I forgot
yeah.
everything by the time that I saw the second one. And they went in a totally different direction, so I had no idea what was going on. It was great.
Yeah, that is a great point. So, what else is going on over there, and where else can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can always find my movie reviews on Once Over with Cayley, which is Cayley. I am pretty excited this upcoming week. I've been doing releases on Tuesdays. I do my YouTube premieres every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And this upcoming week, I am going to be doing Attack of the 50-Foot Woman,
Oh,
the OG from the 1950s. So we're getting into some 50s sci-fi, and I have the guys from Puppet Masters, Castle Freaks, joining me for that, which is very exciting. I also have, let's see, what else do I have that's exciting coming up? It's probably going to be a little bit before I finish this edit, but I have a review of Picnic at Hanging Rock. So we're getting into some Australian 1970s new wave also over there. Lots and lots of random stuff. I'm reviewing Shallow Hal. I'm sorry to tell you. So that's why I just recently watched that.
W-
And yeah, that's movie reviews every week. I've been doing a lot more exciting stuff over there. I've been doing something called Lucy Does Dabbleverse over on my channel. So if you're not a subscriber to Once Over with Cayley, you should absolutely go and subscribe and turn on notifications, because I've just been kind of doing random streams where I'm hopping online and talking about Dabbleverse related stuff, especially more of like the legal sorts of stuff that's been going on, because I think that that's really interesting and exciting. And I work at a law firm, so kind of in my wheelhouse. And yeah, I'll be in Boston this weekend with Who Are
That's
These
right.
Podcasts?
Very exciting to be there.
WATPlive.com for tickets.
Yes.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
it.
And then
I think
you'll also be at the Magic Bag in Ferndale, Michigan,
I
September
sure will.
12th, I
Yes,
think.
that's correct. Yep,
And I really want. I hope my buddy Eric Zane goes out to that
I do
because
too.
he's a big fan of you, and
I'm a big
he'll.
fan of him,
Well, I am too. I
and
have
now of
fun.
his dog.
Yeah. Oh, he's got multiple dogs, but
Yes,
yeah, there was a stream where his dog pissed on one of the
that was what I
cushions.
was
That
referencing.
was
Yeah,
actually pretty great.
that's what
Yeah, I think we're all
that was
fans
the
of his.
thing that I was referencing.
Uh,
I yeah, that Boston is going to be amazing. It's going to be absolutely great with Who Are These Podcasts, and Dick Masterson,
Dick Masterson will
and
be there. The great blind Mike Geary for, I think, I have recommended Why Are You Laughing to so many people. I think that I personally enjoy all of blind Mike shows, but I do know a lot of comedy nerds, and not just the Colin Quinn episode because I was on it, but I do recommend, I think, and it's interesting because that son of a bitch, Mike Geary, is so much younger than me that there's a lot of stuff that he's like learning about for the first time. And I'm like, oh, it's actually really interesting,
he's
like him
so
discovering the
talented.
Jerky Boys, and
Yeah.
he did a Simpsons episode. So please check him out. But if you want to check me out, check out my buddy Eric Zane and I doing Who Are These Broadcasters Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We do it live on the Who Are These Podcasts YouTube channel, but you can also get it as an audio podcast wherever you get those. And we are doing our 100th episode on July 1st. And we have some big surprises planned, one of which very few people know about. And I'm really excited about it. So tune in July 1st for the 100th episode of Who Are These Broadcasters. And of course, if you're here, you must be checking out the Bladtcast, but please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will be back with some fun episodes, including we're going to talk about 28 years later and doing a 25th anniversary talking about Clerks, the animated series. And we had a recent episode where we talked to Bennett Yellen, who was one of the screenwriters of Dumb and Dumber and also Stuck on You, which is better than Shallow Hal. And so check all that out. Bladtcast. Thanks again to Cayley from Once Over with Cayley and everyone in the chat. And I do mean everyone. And we will see you next time on the Bladtcast.